Week 19 has started. Chaos has ensued. What else would we expect from the NBA? Let's recap all of Monday's action alongside the one and only Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I've just been sitting here waiting for any more updates on baby Gronk. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Go to fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We're free. We're available on all platforms. Double bang. I think it's probably a triple bang time here in the playoffs. Get it? Playoffs? Thumbs up. Leave your comments. Bells. Subscribe. Operation, let's say 75K by the end of the playoffs. Don't think we'll get there, but you never know. Let's hit the 75K mark over here on YouTube as well. 6 games on across the NBA. I'll give you the spoiler alert now that when we get to the stream of the day recap, literally, I don't think it could have been worse. Not probably, 100% the worst I've ever seen. You've never seen anything worse than that. So be prepared. It's going to be amazing just how terrible it was. Let's talk about news. Let's talk about what we need to talk about to kick off this lovely show. First off, some surgeries for some hands. Scotland Barnes and Rusty Westbrook both having surgery on their hands. Westbrook might come back before the playoffs. The Raptors aren't going to be in the playoffs. The general consensus from the Raptors beat reporters is that Barnesy's done for the year, so you can feel pretty comfortable, I think, about dropping him. And even if he did come back, like we're talking 5 days or so before the end of the season, is probably the guess there. Be very interesting. Barnes would have been in the mix for most improved player. He can't win it now because he's only played 60 games and obviously can't make an all-NBA team. Not that he would have, but he's 60 games done. So the most improved situation for Barnesy, can't do it. He's having that surgery. Westbrook's having his surgery. That again, if you are still holding Russell Westbrook, please stop doing it.
Get that garbage out of here!
Tyler Hero, whose injury was totally fine, he wasn't going to miss any time. He's out again for tomorrow, while Don Mitchell's having a PRP injection in his knee. He's out for at least 3 games. They've got a really packed schedule here, the Cavs, so I'd expect maybe a little bit longer for Donnie. And then you've got Okoro and LeVert, who are also on the injury report with questionable tags. So Sam Merrill has got a real opportunity here to put in some really strong work, and we know their schedule's jam-packed at the moment, so we get a little bit of a boost there by adding Sammy Merrill. We got an update from Steve Clifford on LaMelo Ball, and I know that sometimes we all like to look at things in our own light, depending on what our situation is. I think some people, much like the Embiid one yesterday, some people just might be, I don't know, reading a little bit too much into it, giving hope that LaMelo is returning. Maybe he is, I don't know. But I just can't take anything this organization says seriously. So when Clifford's out here dancing around subjects, go, oh yeah, it looks probably a little bit better. Like, it's just, you can get whatever you want out of that. If you just say, I think LaMelo is coming back this week, well, you can take that out of that statement. You can also be skeptical and go, yeah, he's just saying stuff that doesn't mean anything, and he's not going to return. Basically, he's saying Melo's doing more and more. He had a good workout today and did some live work. I feel like he's getting closer, but not quite there yet. Yeah, I feel like he's getting closer, yeah? So you could say, man, that's great. He's getting closer. He's almost there. And then he can say the same thing next week. Yeah, look, it's just been really slow. Progress has been slow, but he's getting there. He's doing some work. And it can go on and on and on. It's plausible deniability, I think. Much like Desmond Bain. Less certain with Ball than it is with Bain. But while this interview looks interesting, I'm not sure it means anything. We'll find out. Devin Booker's ankle injury, we talked about this already. The original thing was 7 to 10 days. I saw Dwayne Rankin, Suns beat reporter, said he might be back in as little as 5, but also as long as 14. So we're talking maybe 2 weeks there for Booker. And that means that Eric Gordon and the Basmati man, Royce O'Neal, will step into larger roles with Booker out as the Suns just continually not able to keep their guys healthy, or not keep them healthy. How could you stop an ankle sprain like that? Just stuff happens sometimes, doesn't it? Let's talk waiver wire. What are the trends? Who's been added? Who's been dropped over the last 24 hours? Your most added player has been Jabari Walker, up 21%, and that's good because Grant was out and Ayton was out. Ayton was upgraded to questionable and then ruled out again. I fear there might be a few more of those coming. Jeremy Grant with his dreaded quad. Someone did the research. I think it was Sean who did. Was it Sean? No, it wasn't Sean. It was there's someone who follows the show and on YouTube comments, old mate Sean. Then there's another guy, Old Man in the Sea. I think this was Old Man in the Sea that did the research that Jeremy Grant in the last 4 seasons has played 41 games in March and April combined. End of season legend Jeremy Grant. So yeah, he's out again. Dorian Finney-Smith up 21%. 5 games, it makes sense. Taylor Hendricks up 13%. The golf club, looked good, didn't it? Looked like it might be a good opportunity to begin the week. He got hurt at halftime. Santi Aldama, the middest man that ever mitted, he's up 10%. Cool. Not as cool as adding Jordan Goodwin, who was a healthy scratch DNP, even though Derrick Rose and Zaire Williams were out. We just cannot know a single thing with this team. It's written in the Constitution, I believe. Isn't that the 69th Amendment? That you can't know what Memphis is doing with injuries and rotations. I'm pretty sure. Or something to do with 69, whatever. Jordan Goodwin. This is going to be the same with Trey Jemison as well. You do not know when they are going to play. It is almost impossible to just have them on your roster in a head-to-head format unless you get the notification and you can stream in an hour before the game to know, because you don't. And even today, I've got him on one of my rosters because I've got deep benches. I don't have to use everybody. But today I thought, it's relatively safe. He probably plays. Nah, doesn't. So now there is officially no way of knowing unless they tell you that Jordan Goodwin is starting or that we get the notification that he's not inactive. There is no way of knowing this. Pain in the ass. Kelly Olynyk up 7%. Yes, Jakob Poeltl's out tomorrow. We know that Barnsley's done for the year. Not that really impacted Olynyk much until Poeltl went down. So there you go. Kelly Olynyk with an opportunity to put up some numbers. And there are people who are, I guess, new to fantasy who go, man, why do people keep talking about Kelly Olynyk? Why are you interested in Kelly Olynyk? He's so bad. He's not good. No, absolutely not true. If Kelly Olynyk plays as a starter, in a situation like this especially, like he could very easily be a top 40 player rest of the season. He gets points, rebounds, assists, threes, gets some blocks, and can be okay with percentages. Like he just does everything across the board. Everything. You even have to look back 1 year. Like he was pretty good last year in Utah without being anywhere close to the number 1, 2, 3 option. He's very good at fantasy. And the opportunity's there. That's why we talk about him. The most dropped players.
Get that garbage out of here.
Dan Gafford down 14%. Muxie Kleber has appeared on the injury report as questionable with a knee issue, so that might keep Gafford somewhat relevant, but overall, totally the right decision. Going to be in the rotation every night with the same role every night. Legend Bol is down 11% after he played 7 minutes last game. Cool, drop him. Tari next season, Tari lost season, Tari second season that only turned into a half season. He is down 10%. Move on, obviously. Timmy Hardaway down 10%, really struggling. Ben Mathurin down 7% because he sucks. And Trey Mann down 7%. Now, I don't think it would have dropped Trey Mann. Obviously, his usage has not been where we hoped, but they lost 2 more guards. Seth Curry and Cody Martin are out for at least 2 weeks. And those at least 2 weeks means season for this team. It doesn't, but it also does. I mean, it's not official, but it also is. Like, you know how the Hornets roll, yeah? So I would be keeping Trey Mann. I would also be adding Vasily Micic. I would be adding him. He's going to start and play pretty good minutes and maybe average 7 assists all the way through here. Add Micic. That's why he was on the thumbnail of the Daily Look Ahead show yesterday. Not yesterday, today. Today is the day that I did that show. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Yes, sometimes we need that opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. Like you might have started the fantasy playoffs today. You might have said, well, I'm going to get some Jazz guys and get them into my lineup. Keontae George, Taylor Hendricks, young rookies. Let's see what they can do. And then you saw what happened. And obviously you might want to vent. And doing that to someone unbiased in your life can be really useful. Helps teach you ways to be able to cope with things that don't go your way and life skills to learn for other bigger problems. And of course, we all have things that are much bigger in our lives than whether Keontae George managed to last more than half a quarter with an illness that he should have just sat out for. We've got bigger things to talk about than that, but getting stuff off your chest can help. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnba to get 10% off your first month. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. All right. I think that'll bring us... Oh, let's talk games. Yeah, let's talk games. Because we have got 6 of them to talk about today with some, obviously, as usual, interesting results. We'll go straight into this first one here, though. That was the Memphis Grizzlies and the Brooklyn Nets. And the putrid Nets lost to the putrid Grizzlies. There were some lineup changes here because, as I said, Jordan Goodwin was out. So the Duck, Luke Kennard, who'd been absolutely mid and barely playing, he started. John Conchar returned and started with Zaire Williams out with a back injury. And we also had a third change with Lamar Stevens, who started last game, going to the bench, and Trey Jemison, two-way legend, starting as well. And much like Jordan Goodwin, he cannot play every night. So don't feel super excited about adding him. Let's talk about it. Some other Grizzlies win, 106-102. I'm going to give you just an out there idea. Maybe Kevin Ollie's not it. Not sure. Losing at home to the Grizzlies is I believe it's a war crime in certain spots, but I don't know. Let's talk Grizzlies because, well, I'll talk Grizzlies, but Luke Kennard, 27 minutes, 25, 2 and 7, 6 threes, 73%. You go, that's great, mate. I've got to add him. Go and look at his game log. He had 2 points last game. His minutes are all over the shop. His usage, basically every game, does not change except for this one out of nowhere. Yeah, you can have him, you can use him, but man, confidence should not be there. Same with Lil John Conchar, who played 31 minutes. He had 9, 8, and 4 with 2 steals, and I guess that's okay. But do I have faith that he's going to play every game? I don't think so. Vince Williams, 11, 5, and 6 with 2 steals, but his percentages are really hurting at the moment. He shot another 36% here. The captain of the midway, the monster of the midway, there he is, Santi Aldama, 12, 5, and 4, 46%, 32 minutes. This man continues to be barely a top 200 player on the year. He's 162nd over the last 2 weeks. It doesn't matter who's in or out. He's just bad. And I feel very uncomfortable with considering him a must-roster guy. I think we can very easily jack off GG Jackson.
Get that garbage out of here!
7 points, 22%, 2 rebounds. After that first initial game where everyone was really frothing up, really working the oily substances into their hands, yeah, it's been pretty rough, hasn't it? 290th over the last 2 weeks, 280th for the season, 217th in points leagues. It's not happening. It might happen at some point. You can't trust it. Well, Lamar Stevens had 13 and 6 and then went 1 of 3 from the line. Stevens is marginally interesting, but who knows? Who knows? Trey Jemison, he had 10 and 7 in his 19 minutes. He did foul out, so he probably would have done way better, except we don't know which games he is going to play. The Memphis question marks strike again. The Nets decided they were going to play their starters every minute, basically. Well, not quite, but basically, yes. Still no Ben Simmons, still no Cam Thomas. I don't think Thomas plays tomorrow, and I'd be absolutely stunned if Simmons plays this week. In fact, I think Simmons is done. I don't know that for sure because his back has flared up again. Well, that's what they're calling it. I don't think he plays, but I don't know. Cam Johnson played 37 minutes. Will he play the back-to-back? I guess we'll find out. 18, 5, and 3, 2 steals and a block. Nick Claxton, 21 and 6 on 80% shooting. I love that. And Dennis Schroeder got a ton of minutes, 37. Unfortunately, he's bad, so he had 13 points on 13 shots. The 9 assists are nice. The only reason we're interested in him is because both Thomas and Simmons are out, and they've got a 5-game week. As long as those things continue to happen, maybe even if he had a 4-game week with those two out, you'd use him. But overall, he's not it. Just everything has worked for him right at this point. And Mikal Bridges, we thought maybe he got out of the slump last game. Maybe not. 14, 5 and 5, 29%, 4 of 9 from the line. Is it something mental? Not to say that he's got mental problems, because that's not what I mean. I mean, is it like he is checked out? Is he unhappy with the organization? That's what it feels like. That's what all of this feels like. Because he's not, as much as I don't think that he's the guy that some people think he is, he's not this. He's not this bad. Like, no way. So, yeah, like, also worth remembering. Remember that sometimes you hear that story of the international Team USA bump. Oh, everyone comes back from that. They're awesome. Shout out to Walker Kessler and Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson and probably 5 other guys from that team. Not a reliable indicator. Day'Ron Sharpe hurt his wrist in this one. He did come back for the final 2 seconds or 10 seconds or whatever it was to grab a board, but played only 14 minutes, 4 and 3. So his availability for tomorrow, not good. And the 5-game week, it's all crumbling for us. While Dorian Finney-Smith had 9, 5 and 5, steal block, 3 threes, 37 minutes. That's good. Well, it's not, but it's also a good way to start the week because of the schedule. Lonnie Walker had 13 points. He sprained his ankle. He said he's going to be okay, but honestly, just a disaster performance, I thought, from old mates, the Brooklyn Nets. The next game was another game. Of course it was. It was another game that was filled, though, with some tanking shenanigans. And that team involved was your Portland Trailblazers. Jeremy Grant was out, so Jabari Walker started. Delano Banton slid into the starting lineup while Tumani Kamara was out. There was a change to the Wolves starting lineup as well. I didn't put it on the graphic because I didn't think it was quite right. Anthony Edwards didn't start. Something happened. He was taking a piss or something and didn't get out there for opening tip. So Nikhil Alexander-Walker started and came out 1 minute in. Edwards did start. But then, of course, Edwards got hurt his elbow, went to the locker room. And, of course, Edwards returned, as has happened a million times this season. So what happened in this game? Well, the Wolves win at 119-114. Simons played 43 minutes. He had 34, 5, and 14 on 50% shooting. Great game. If you could get any top 70 player, you have to do it. He's not lasting. You have to do it. While the big fella, the Great Barrier Reef, played 39 minutes. Last game as it started, played 24. So that was pretty predictable, wasn't it? 26, 3 and 1, steal, block, 5 triples, 71%. You're not going to do that every game. But if Ayton and Grant are out, we roll with him. Same as us rolling with Jabari Walker. Unfortunately, Jabari Walker rolled all over our spread out balls as he had 4 points in 28 minutes with 8 rebounds and 22% shooting after back-to-back double-doubling across the weekend. I mean, that's also awesome. Well, Delano Banton started and just brutalized you. 35% from the field. That is Ochai Agbaji territory. He took 20 shots. Some might say too many. Yes, me, a lot. That's too many. And then he also went 3 of 5 from the line for 60%. The counting stats are pretty good. But last game, it was Ashton Hagens. Banton played 9 minutes in that last game, or 10 minutes. And now he plays 33. We're getting perilously close to having two teams share the same nickname. The question marks in Portland. Hagens had 0 points in 20 minutes with 4 assists and 3 steals. And I had questions of people asking me in the pre-game show today, man, do we go and add Hagens? Do we go and add Banton? I think it's just so unpredictable what they're going to do. It's not quite the G League situation for the Grizzlies that in terms of games played, but it is actually for Hagens. He can't play every game. He can only play half the games, and Banton's all over the place in terms of his production. Chris Murray, I feel relatively confident about his role. His production, not so much, but he was good. 14 and 5, triple one. That's all right. Deeper leagues, I'm definitely grabbing Chris and looking at, he's moving towards 12-team interest. Well, Rayan Rupert had probably his best game, 13 and 6 in 23 minutes. But honestly, what is his team? For the Wolves, Gobert had 25 and 16. Conley, 19, 2 and 7 with 3 steals. That's huge. While Alexander Walker had 13 with 3 triples. Edwards had 13, 4 and 6. It wasn't a good game for him. Bad from the field, bad from the line. While the Wizard of Noz had 12 and 5 with 4 triples and shot 80%. But with Kyle Anderson back, we've seen the production drop, and he moves back, I believe, into being a streamer. Jaden McDaniels continues to be useless.
Get that garbage out of here.
9 and 4, while 21 minutes only for Karl Anthony Towns. He did have some foul trouble. You have to wonder if something else is going on there, but he's struggling a little bit at the moment. 14 and 4 with 2 blocks on 42%. Not much else going on there. 29 minutes for Kyle Anderson on the back-to-back's a little surprising. He had 9, 3, and 5 with the triple one, but I don't think we need to pay extreme attention there. He's a streamer, but that's probably about it. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. You can bet all of your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props. You can go in and look at the future bets for NBA title. You can look at the playoff odds for teams. You can look at MVP, most improved player, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year. All those props are available over on FanDuel, as long as the usual stuff, money lines and spreads and game totals and all that sort of stuff. So go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. Let's do the next one. It was the Clippers taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. There's a change to the lineup. There were multiple changes to the lineup for the Bucks because they submitted a lineup that turned out to be incorrect. Love when teams do that. They said that Pat Connaughton was replacing Giannis Antetokounmpo in the starting lineup, but in fact, we only found out that it wasn't when Patrick Beverley turned up on the court and went, "Hey guys, I'm here. Who wants to do a podcast?" And then he was starting. Starting Pat Beverley for Giannis looks weird in the totality of it, but obviously just means everyone shifts up. Beasley to the 3, and Crowder played the 4, which is really his natural position, other than sitting on the bench and never touching the ball. The Bucks win at 113-106, huge win for them against the Clippers. Good to see them do that and turn things around. While the Clippers, they were without Westbrook, obviously. Harden had 29, 4, and 8. Kawhi, really disappointing, 32% shooting, but 16, 4, and 5. The 4 steals and a block gets it done. The other stuff, not that good. And Paul George, again, good to see him back on track too, 29 and 5 with 6 triples and 2 steals. 24 minutes for Zubats. Is this still the illness? I guess it is the back-to-back, but 6 and 11, 50% shooting. If the Clippers, and they do, if the Clippers encounter, and they do, I know I keep saying they do. They've got a bad schedule coming up at periods. You might consider him a drop. Just because of the paucity. I'm going to double check that word, because I know it's a word, and I don't know that it fits exactly. Nah, your boy banged it on, mate. That's Grammarly for you. They're not even sponsoring today's show. They're getting a shout out. Paucity. The paucity of games coming up for the Clippers means it's really hard for me to consider Zubats a must-roster player, especially when the minutes are sort of a little bit all over the place at the moment as he returns from injury and now illness. Storman Norman played 34 minutes. He had 6 points. Yuck. The 2 steals are nice, but he's stream only, and Terrence Mann is back into a pumpkin. 4 points, 19 minutes for him. The big stiffy 5-minute man, Bones Highland, had 5 points, while Daniel Tice played 15, and he has taken that backup spot away from the cockroach. Has it happened? Has Mason Plumlee been killed out of lineups? We will find out. But the Bucks, Lillard, here we go. 42 minutes, 41 points, 4 threes, 55%, and 13 of 13 from the line. This is what gets us lifting up our desks. Love it. Can it stick? I don't know. Bobby Portis didn't start, but he played 30. He had 28 and 16 with 2 threes. That's a standard Bobby game with no Yanni. And then Pat Bev played 34 minutes, 12 and 9, 4 steals and a block. Love that. That's unbelievable. But the problem is we didn't know he was starting until well after the opportunity to add him had passed. Brookie Lopez sucked, 6 points with 2 blocks and 6 rebounds, while Leaky Beasley, you know the Leaky Beasley story, 5 points, 18% shooting with 3 steals. He is hot and cold. He is streamable and not a must-roster guy. Crowder and Connaughton did nothing. 3 points for Crowder, 8 for Connaughton, and they still somehow were able to get that victory. Let's do the next game. What a absolutely chaotic game this was. The Washington Wizards and the Utah Jazz. Bilal Coulibaly returned for the Wizards, so he started over Landry Shamet. Larry Markkinen, of course, was out for the Jazz. So it was Luka Šarmanić, not Taylor Horton-Tucker, or not Bryce Sensabaugh. It was Luka Šarmanić who moved into that starting job, just as we all thought. But that's nothing. That's nothing compared to what was actually going on in this game, because it was weird. The Wizards lose in the end 127-115 against the Jazz. Let's talk Washington, because my man, your man, our favorite, Jordan Poole went crazy. 32 points in 29 minutes, 6 dribbles, 2 steals, a block, 61% shooting, 100 from the line, 4 of 4. Now, this bloke, I won't call him what I was going to call him. I will just tell you that I might not see him on Monday. Could see him on Tuesday, either this one or the next one. Not sure. Now we get this, do we, my guy? Now, after 50 games of piddling around and never shooting it, being completely unserious while you've been getting a significant role as a starter, now literally everything that he is doing now is why I said yes, top 50, yes, top 40. Because you know what he is over the last 5 games? The 28th ranked player. Because he's getting 30% usage. He's hitting threes, he's scoring. We're getting some steals thrown in as well. Seriously, this guy. One of the biggest missed projections I've ever had, and then in fantasy playoffs is going to turn out to be actually bang on the nose. Why wouldn't he take a shot for the first 50 games of the year? Cool. Denny Avdia had 16 and 11 in 35 minutes on 33% shooting. Remember when we talked about his hot streak, and when I use it as the absolute prime example of mainstream media crossover. And when you see Legion Hoops and Basketball Forever and Hezzy Ball Don't Stop game-watching mid-range legends talking about how he's fine the next step and he's now the guy and the development's here and he's the one taking over the team and look at these numbers and we should be trained from a fantasy perspective that when people put up those graphs and you see 57% from 3 and 64% from 2, we go, yeah, absolutely not real. It's not happening. It's going to fall off in a gigantic way. And that's not to say that Denny's playing poorly, but he's the 158th ranked player over the last 2 weeks for fantasy in 31 minutes a game. Because he can't keep those numbers up. Always remember this, that when you see the crossover into the big accounts, the bigger accounts, the ones that don't talk fantasy and they start talking about breakouts, and you see those numbers, it's your biggest indication ever to move off if you get the big return back. He's still good. Not that good. Tyus Jones had 21, 5 and 6 with 5 threes, while the big fella Marvin Bagley, oh yeah, this is the beginning, 6 and 9 in 23 minutes with 4 assists, and he left with back spasms. Of course he did. Marvin Bagley is just starting to look like he was going to be a pretty good option for us. So what do you do without the big fella, without Bags? What do you do? Will it be Rashawn Holmes, who had 0 points in 9 minutes? Will it be Eugene Amari, who had 0 points in 4 minutes? I think the answer is probably neither. It could be Holmes. He might start. They might also start Kuzma at center and get more minutes for Kispert, who we'll talk about in a second. I don't think that Holmes or Amari will stand out enough to be considered must-roster guys. As for Kispert, who was starting to play really well, and he was starting to get the mini Denny. Kispert's figured it out. A lot of stuff happening. We had 5 points in 16 minutes on 22%. We can't roster that, obviously. As for Bilal, 7 points, 33 minutes, 1 block, 29%. Can't roster that in 12s either.
Get that garbage out of here.
And starting legend Landry Shamet had 2 points in his 18 minutes. Disaster. But that's nothing. Because for the Utah Jazz, we had a late addition to the injury report. Keontae George popped up late yesterday with an illness. Okay, that's not good. And then, no, we got announced today. He's going to push through. He's going to play. Awesome. Thanks, Keontae. 6 minutes he lasted. So that kills you because you put him into your lineup like I did, like an idiot. Actually, I didn't put him into my lineup. I had him there and I go, well, if he plays, he plays. And if he doesn't, I get a 0. But this is the worst case scenario in a games cap format because I wasted a games cap. 0 points, 6 minutes, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 0 of 2 shooting. Now, the Jazz have 2 more games left this week. In 6 days, that is terrible. I think George is probably good enough to hold, but maybe not. Taylor Hendricks. All right, big opportunity. No Markkanen, no Kessler. 14 minutes at halftime, 8, 2 and 1, 2 triples, 100% shooting. We love that. Didn't return. Toe sprain. Oh my God, what is going on? So, I like George way more than Hendricks for the rest of this season. I would drop Hendricks without really too much question.
Get that garbage out of here.
Maybe the toe injury is nothing. That is possible. 2 games, next 6 nights. If you're in the playoffs, you can't deal with that for a guy that you might not even get a game out of until Saturday. You can't hold on to that. The Baptist, 17 and 15 with 6 blocks for Johnny Collins. Everyone was down. No Markkanen, no Hendricks, no Kessler. He was great. Awesome. That's fantastic. And then Clarko started the second half. Jordy Clarkson, 38, 10 and 7 with 4 threes, 50% shooting. After Wednesday, you might drop him. The 1 game in the final 4 nights of the week. That is a huge game with everybody out. And Sexton, 29, 3 and 7, 2 steals. Somebody's got to take the shots, and these 2 guys are never going to be afraid to do that. Horton Tucker had 9 points in 15 minutes, while Sensabaugh had 7, and in his 21, I like that Bryce played more than Talon, but not enough to care. And then Luka Šarmanić had 2 blocks, but he also has shot 22% in his 23 minutes for 5 points. We're not adding him. We're not adding Bryce. We're not adding Horton Tucker. Chris Dunn started the second half for Hendricks. They went smaller with Šarmanić at the 4. He had a Chris Dunn line. 4, 5, and 4 with 2 steals and a block. That's Chris Dunn. Now, if Chris Dunn gets another start, you'd stream him in, but we're not adding him. Again, the schedule's terrible. Really, really bad for the Jazz coming up here with no games, 2 games in 6 nights. And after Wednesday, 1 game for the rest of the week. Just chaos. Yeah, George, what a great ad. Yeah, Hendricks looking awesome. Marvin Bagley, he's killing it. All injured in the same game. And now, I don't know what happened. Now, the Jazz won't be like, we're shutting down Taylor Hendricks unless it's a significant injury because they want to see him play. And George will be back for Wednesday. But, man, what a disaster start to the week for any of those guys, honestly. Great if you had Clarkson and Sexton. Great. Great if you had Collins. But, yeah, bad otherwise. Let's do the next one, the Chicago Bulls and the Sacramento Kings. There was a lineup change here because De'Aaron Foxy Fox, he returned, pushing Keon Ellis to the bench. Alex Caruso was questionable before the game, but he was available to play. So obviously he did play. So let's talk about this game, which was a victory in the end for Chicago, but only because they went absolutely bananas at the end for a crazy comeback. Sacramento choked it away, honestly. 113-109, Chicago wins. Kobe White plays an insane 44 minutes. Barely did anything for the first quarter or so, but ended with 37, 5 and 7 on 74% shooting with 5 triples and 4 of 5 from the line for 80%. Just great that I've got a buy in industry pickup when Jordan Poole and Kobe White both go crazy. Love that. DeMar DeRozan has 33 in 38 minutes, and Dosunmu also, he started out really strong, 20 points in 39 minutes with 5 assists. Very clear must roster player because they don't have anyone to rely on. Caruso only scored 2 points, but take the positives out of it. 7 assists, 4 steals, and he got 10 shots up. And normally you're not going to go 1 of 10. So it would be better. Vooch also had 10 and 13 in this one. In his 32, but it was a stinker from Drummond. 4 and 6 in 16 minutes. So some games there's crossover. Some games he starts. Some games he's a strict bench guy. That makes it really hard to sort of judge where to put him. Because last game he played like 24 minutes or so in a reserve role. Crossed over with Vooch, but today we got none of that. So that is a little bit tougher to figure out on a game-by-game basis. We got 13 minutes out of Honorable Batim and 6 points for Julian Phillips in his 14 minutes. The Kings side, pretty disappointing to lose that one. Sabonis had 18 and 21 with 37% shooting. Keegan Murray tried to outdo him. He had 38% shooting, 11, 6 and 4, but I love the 3 blocks. He also played 39 minutes, Keegan. But of course, with Fox back, the usage is always going to decrease. As for Fox, 20 points, 10 assists, 39%. So 39 minutes, but bad from the line. That's a pretty standard Fox thing. And Fanapants had 12 points in 23 minutes. He is only a scheduled streaming guy.
Get that garbage out of here.
10 points for the pencil Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. We're not rostering him. Well, Malik Monk had a poor one. 11, 4 and 6 on 33%, but it's the minutes that I'm interested in. 30 minutes there over Herter. We definitely roster Monk over Herter. Chris Duarte did nothing, and Trey Lyles had 9 points in his 21 minutes of action. Let's go to the final game of the night. The Lakers get the big win over the Thunder. 116-104 is your final score here for the Thunder. It was a back-to-back for them. Shea had 20 points in 30 minutes. He had 4 steals and 2 blocks. 9 of 9 from the line is great. Unfortunately, just 39% from the field. Well, Giddey played 29 minutes. Now, obviously, he'd been doing nothing like that. This is great. 13, 5 and 4 with a 1-1. Not really sure I want to trust it because obviously he hasn't done that at all, but it was good. But this game was one where we saw minutes sort of reduced across the board. Only 26 minutes for the Broncos, 7 points on 22%. Chet Holmgren played only 28 minutes with 15 and 7. And as I said, Shea was under 30. Lou Dort played 24. The Thunder sort of packed this one in relatively early in terms of those minutes and had to change things up. Didn't mean that Gordon Hayward did anything. He had 2 points in 14 minutes and we're dropping him.
Get that garbage out of here.
And Aaron Wiggins had 12 points and Kaysen Wallace got 3 steals in his 22. So I think a lot of these things you see here, the low minutes for most players, the high minutes for Giddey, is stuff you can chuck out. You don't have to worry too much about it. For the Lakers, Davis had 24 and 12 with 3 blocks. LeBron played only 31 minutes, 19, 11 and 8. Reeves, 16, 6 and 7, and D'Lo got hot in this one. 26, 6 and 3 with 4 steals and a block. Good game from him. Unfortunately bad from the line, but great from the field. Really strong performance. Dinwiddie did nothing yet again. And Rui Hachimura, 7 points, 22 minutes, 38% shooting. He only played those 22 minutes, like I said. He just isn't a good category league contributor. He's fine to stream, but today if you streamed him, you got absolutely nothing. While Pocket's favourite son, Taurean Prince, had 14 points in 22 minutes with 4 triples. But overall, I wouldn't say there's too many significant takeaways out of that game. It was weird minutes, relatively comfortable victory for the Lakers, and nothing that we need to do from a fantasy perspective. Let's go in now and take a look at the results of the stream of the day. And like I said, probably the worst one you'll ever see. 10-team stream of the day was Keontae George. He had 1 rebound and 1 assist. Your 12-team stream of the day was Jordan Goodwin. I said, I'm pretty scared of doing this because I'm not sure if he plays, but I had some confidence. Derrick Rose is out. Zaire out. Yeah, surely. DMP. Your 14-team stream of the day, well, that was Taylor Hendricks, who had 8 and 2 with 1 assist and left at halftime. Did it get any better on the next page? Not really. The 16-team stream of the day was Day'Ron Sharpe. He had 4, 3 and 1. Your Yahoo point stream was Keontae George with 1.7 fantasy points, and your ESPN point stream was Keontae George with -1. Could not have done worse, I don't think, across the board there. Just so many things happening that I didn't foresee happening, obviously. A Goodwin DNP, an illness for George, a toe injury for Hendricks, and Sharpe just sucked. So, yeah, that was bad. That was bad. I'm not going to do the full presentation of the lines of the night because son baseball practice, I'm heading out there. But the line of the night was decided, and it was Rudy Gobert. He was your monstrous line of the night. The waiver wire line of the night, as I quickly scan, it was the Duck, Luke Kennard, with his 25 points and 7 assists. Your young gun of the night. Who was the best player as a first or second year player? Oh, it was the big fella, Dwop Reith, who had 26 points with 5 triples, while the dud of the night, as we scroll down to the bottom of the list, it's, of course, for the second time in about 4 nights, Mikal Bridges, 14 points on 29% from the field and also 44% from the line on 9 attempts. Absolutely kills ya. Let's just go through my last little checklist here before we head out. The guys I think you can add, I think Dwop Reith, again, I don't know about Ayton, so Dwop Reith / Jabari Walker are worth looking at. Chris Murray for deeper formats, and even though the Hornets didn't play today, Vasily Micic. With no Martin, no Curry, no Ball, Micic is going to get a big run. I think you can feel okay dropping Taylor Hendricks. I think you can feel okay dropping Ben Simmons as well. I just don't think we're going to see him out there and playing because, why would he? Why would he? And that is going to bring us to the end of this show. Monday's action in the books. Go ahead, if you haven't already, and hit the thumbs up. Go ahead and ring the bell. Go ahead and leave your comments just right there at the bottom of the video. Double bang it, listen to the audio. Do both of those things, guys. We are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.